City Council of Lake Forest. Please call the roll.
Mayor Cowie, Chairman Pandeleon,
Here.
Alderman Novit,
Here.
Alderman Waldeck,
Here.
Alderman Moore,
Here.
Alderman Morsch,
Here.
Alderman Schoenheider,
Here.
Alderman Palmer,
Here.
Alderman Edelman. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. First order of business is consideration of minutes from the Finance Committee meeting held on May 16th, 2011. Are there any comments, additions, corrections?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Seconded in a tie by Alderman Novit. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Next order of business is a discussion of a potential general obligation bond refunding. We have some bonds that are coming due shortly, and we also have some bonds that are available to be refinanced, but are not, in fact, coming due for several more months. And the discussion is primarily, I think, going to be focused on the desirability of an advanced refinancing of some of the bonds that are not yet coming due. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone to Kathy Reinertsen, who will describe the analysis and recommendation of the city staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Spear Financial, Mr. Dan Forms is also here in the audience to assist with the presentation. A little bit of background, we have been monitoring interest rates since our last bond issue, which was in April of 2010, to determine an ideal time for refunding. Bonds can only be refunded one time, so that's why it's important to pick the ideal time. If we were to do a sale, approval today, the earliest sale date would be at your September 6th meeting. We have completed an analysis, and the rates used were based on a AA1 rated issue, bond issue from the Village of Palatine. We do know that rates currently, as of today, are slightly better than the rates used in the analysis, so we feel that the rates are as best as we can forecast at this moment. There are two potential refundings. The easier one is the current refunding. Currently, we can call portions of our 1999, 2000, 2003, and 2003D issues. This represents portions of, or actually all of the remaining principal of the cemetery bonds, the old municipal services facility bonds, water fund, and storm sewer bonds. There are about 2.9 million of these bonds that can be refunded. We have a schedule in the packet that shows a net present value of about $122,000 or 4.2% of the refunded principal. If we were to do only the current refunding, we would recommend a local bank offering in order to save more dollars on the issuance costs and staff time. The second one, which is a little more complicated, is the advanced refunding. And this represents portions of our 2002A, which is the water plant, 2004A, which is the golf course, and 2004B, which is the storm sewer issues. There we have about $23.6 million that could be advance refunded. Now, the bonds are not callable until December of 2012, so what happens is that we would issue the bonds at September, and they would go into an escrow until the bonds can be called. At the rates that we've used, we can earn about 4.8% of the refunded principal, or $1.1 million. However, if rates did not change, if they remained the same as today, we could actually earn an additional $800,000 because we do have negative arbitrage in the escrow. We do have a Schedule B in the packet that shows the information on the advance refunding, but the important one to focus on as far as where we need your direction is on the sensitivity analysis, which is attachment C, which is also on the overhead. And that compares the net present value savings currently with different issue dates and with a 50 basis point rise in rates. We did have a conference call with Mayor Cowie and Chairman Pandeleon, as well as an email exchange with former Finance Chairman Grumhouse, and all parties recommended proceeding with the current refunding, also proceeding with the advanced refunding, but continuing to monitor interest rates. And if rates move out of favor, the mayor and the finance chairman can then make a decision on the sale to cancel the sale, but that can be no later than August 23rd. So we do seek your questions and ideas on the refundings.
Just to throw my 2 cents in, the debate really centers around a bird in the hand versus a few more in the bush. Assuming rates don't move much between now and the end of August when this deadline comes, and we go ahead and refinance the bonds that are not yet callable but will be in a little over a year, the interest, we would be refinancing at a lower interest rate than the bonds that are currently outstanding. Therefore, there'd be, if the rates held as they are today, all the way till the point at which the bonds are callable, there's something like $2 million to be saved. However, forecasting interest rates is a dangerous game, and we're at a point today where, unless rates move significantly within the next 30 days, we can pocket roughly $1.1 million, it was $1.120, something like that, and be pretty certain that those savings will be realized. Yes, it's very tempting to hold out for that last 800, but given the uncertainties in the financial markets, I think our sense was better safe than sorry, and let's take a sure thing rather than sort of going for perfection. We don't want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good here. So that was where the debate was had. That was the sort of consensus that we reached just among the team that looked at this over the last couple of weeks.
So what things could cause interest rates to go against us other than everything in Europe or another meltdown in Japan? Or, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. I tend to agree with you. I wouldn't go for the bird in the bush. I'd go for the bird in the hand. Unless we go through another a double-dip recession, I suppose that could possibly drive rates down.
This is what we talk about all day long at the water cooler and every place else. I guess the one thing that's informing this to some extent is it's hard to imagine rates going a lot lower than they are today. They might go a little lower in a downside scenario. Much more likely from where they're positioned today that the direction is upward. And
I agree.
So that was part of the thinking.
No, agreed. And I term it upside downside. Obviously, having the benefit now, it's appreciated. The net gain potential versus risk would, I think, safely say, why don't we go for the assumed savings?
So if the United States defaults on its bonds soon because Congress can't get its act together, that would not be helpful for a waiting game, would it?
No.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be helpful for any game, I don't think.
No, that's true.
Because that's going to happen probably before August 23rd. At least we'll have an indication before that. And it could, if they don't get their act together, it could get very squirrely, over the next couple of weeks. You just don't know what day. And, the market's maybe going to speak about this at some point. Right now, they're pretending it's nothing to worry about.
George, when do we lock in the rate then? Or maybe that's a question for Kathy. When do we choose? Is there a window, a day, a week, a trading session?
The sale date would be the day of your meeting, Tuesday, September 6th. We do have a competitive bidding process that occurs in the morning online, and that's when we lock in the rate. However, we would need to give 2 weeks' notice if we were not going to go through with the sale.
Do you have a sense, Kathy, of what the interest level in the bonds would be?
Interest rate on the bonds? Yes.
No, interest level, the interest of buyers out there. Is there, Is there a lot of appetite, you think, out in the market for these kinds of bonds?
Oh, I think Dan could probably answer that. He's been involved in several sales recently.
Actually, based on recent sales, again, not looking forward.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. Dan Forbes with Spear Financial. Been serving as the bond financial advisor for the city. So, we've been working with Kathy. I've actually been basing some of the numbers and projections on some sales that have happened in the last month. Very comparable sales. There's two reasons. One, I'm more confident in my sales. We did a $30 million King County deal, which is AA1, and that was a very comparable type deal. Palatine was much smaller, but there is what's known as some of you may know, an Illinois interest rate penalty right now for credits in Illinois that
Can't imagine why.
is not carried by municipalities or other political subdivisions throughout the country. Some nicks maybe to California and some other states, but so I've tried to be extremely careful, and even though you have this Illinois penalty and investors in general don't like Illinois paper maybe as much as others, if you have an excellent credit like the AAA of the city, or you have a substantially large blocks like Kane County was sold, the interest level was very high. We attracted the institutional investors in New York. I would think for an issue like this, maybe 4 very good syndicates representing probably a number of 10 bankers. But again, in Kane County, it was just one large institutional investor, I think bought like 70 to 90% of the issue. I'm very confident that today it is probably above the 1 million won, given what has happened in the market. But times, as you have been pointing out, are really volatile now, so it's very difficult. Hopefully, when things are sorted out at the beginning of August, I can come back, but I do not foresee anything right now that would take away the interest of a AAA credit right now, especially given when they're talking about the sovereign credit rating being less than AAA.
Is there an interest cost to the escrow period, or is it just because it's not dispersed, there's no distribution, there's no cost? Or you said we'd have a sale known to be an escrow for a period of time. Do we have to carry that?
The amount that we would earn in the escrow, there are certain restricted, actually government investments that we need to keep the dollars in, which will be a lower interest rate than the bonds are issued, and that's why
Is
we
that
have.
number net of that, though?
The number is, the savings before is the gross amount, less the negative arbitrage is the net present value.
And that's the number that we see there?
That's the number in the third column and the sixth column, correct?
Okay.
And that's if you think about it in round numbers, $2 million of gross benefit, which is being diluted by about $800,000 of just subpar returns because the money's sitting in cash, basically, in the escrow.
And we can't do better than that, or?
Not allowed to.
Okay.
Kathy, what other comps did you look at? Obviously, the market's moved a lot in the last 2 weeks.
We have used the recent sales of Spear Financial and also the, I'm sorry, Dan, your market rates that you send me weekly.
The market rates, I mean, various indices. I mean, we look at some of the other rates. I mean, obviously, you would be very in great position. I think if you look at the rates, they're relatively conservative as to what other sales have happened.
Yeah, they are. That's what I was asking the question.
Yeah, I thought you might actually ask me a little more pointedly that I'm being a little too cautious.
I'm giving you a break today.
Thank you. You know I'm conservative. I may be edging a little on the side, but just given the times,
I didn't throw this in front of our pricing group before they came here.
Oh, did you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, thank
I
God.
wanted to give you a break.
Don't send it out to Pennsylvania, please. No. But I hope you at least would agree it's today here is a little conservative.
No, I think it's conservative. That's why I don't. Just when we pull the trigger.
I'm sorry?
I just want to be concerned about when you pull the trigger on it. My view is, I mean, I think rates are going to go down.
You think rates are going?
Continue to be flat and down.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
but
we all felt like there's a reasonable possibility that they won't go up. There's probably but they're not going to go down very much either. And what if we're wrong? You know, so that was it was one of those situations where it may be it seems like maybe a little bit of a low probability event, but the consequences of that event, if it was to happen, would cost the city a lot of money. I mean, so that is exactly the debate we had among ourselves when we discussed this. And you know, the plan is to watch it very carefully from now until August. Certainly wait until after we get some idea of what's happening in Washington. And then if it looks like they're starting to move in the wrong direction, just jump in and grab it while we can. But wait until the last minute, because every day that goes by, you get a better sense of, you know, what's likely to happen. And it might be, I mean, if Spear is correct, you know, maybe we'll do better than this simply because the demand for the bonds would be stronger than what was expected, and that would push the yield down a little bit.
So you're looking for a motion?
Yes, sir.
I will move, excuse me, I will move to proceed with the current bond refunding and to begin the process for the advance refunding and to authorize the mayor and finance chairman to cancel the sale no later than August 23rd.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
It's a roll call, isn't it?
No,
Isn't
it's
it?
not, we're committing it.
Okay. Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Any
You're just trying to
opposed?
get ahead of yourself here, Bob.
I tell
Any
you,
opposed? Okay, motion
Bird in the
carries.
hand, you couldn't resist.
Thank you.
grab that
You
bird.
grabbed that bird.
I'm so used to
The
getting
next
bird.
two items on our agenda are second readings of items that were discussed at the last, no? Okay, these are first readings?
And the city council are the second readings. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry, I
Yes.
forgot we're not in the city council yet. Never mind. Okay. Well, the next item on the agenda is the purchase of fiscal year 2012 computer workstations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll keep it simple.
Would you like to present this, Kathy?
Yes, thank you.
Great, fantastic.
Staff is requesting city council approval for the purchase of Dell computers. We are replacing desktop computers and laptops that have aged beyond the 6-year replacement program. This does encompass both FY11 and FY12 replacements, as FY11 was a year of transition, and the replacement methodology was not finalized until recently. We did standardize all desktops and laptops with Dell products 11 years ago. The standardization helps staff to efficiently deploy, troubleshoot, and maintain the systems. Dell has provided the city with government contract pricing based on the Midwestern Higher Education Consortium. The consortium is an instrumentality of the state government, and Illinois is a member of the consortium. We did receive a price of $50,313 for the purchase of 67 desktops and 6 laptops. And we are requesting a waive of the bid process and approval of the purchase of the 67 desktops and 6 laptops.
Questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion then.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Schoenhyder. Right? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is discussion of purchasing and payment approval process, which I will also allow the city staff to present.
Thank you. Some of you may recall that in 2007, we performed an extensive review of our purchasing policies. We recently reviewed the policy again, and some decisions have come to the City Council for your discussion. The first is the monthly check register, which we did put on the FTP site. We have been sending this listing to the Finance Committee Chairman. The Chairman reviews it and sends his approval to us. Our question for you is if the entire Finance Committee would like to review the monthly check register on an ongoing basis, or continue with the current method of having the Finance Chairman approve the listing.
No.
I second it.
Yeah, I third.
No,
No.
No, I don't want to review the check register.
You guys aren't going to give me any help on this.
You're stuck. Why in
Okay.
the world would I want to do that?
so we will continue to send it only to the.
Does anybody
Finance-
else have an opinion?
Those things are always available, right? I mean, detailed
If
trial balance.
you'd
check
like them at any
register.
point, we can send them, correct?
Okay.
Okay.
It's a fun job. Somebody's got to do it.
It's all yours.
Okay, well, I would,
Person in 8.
do we need to have a motion on that subject, or is this just, or
It's
is this
just
a group of things that we can consider as
A
one?
group of things.
Okay.
The next one is just an FYI. We are changing your approval, beginning with the July payments, to expand your approval at the city council level from only the general and water fund to all the city funds. I have attached Exhibit 2, which is an example. You will see this next month when you approve the July bills. Any questions about that? Okay. The next one is an area of gray vendors. We currently have about 6,500 vendors. There are about 27, which happens to be 0.4% of our vendors, that fall into a gray area. The City Council currently approves any single purchase of $20,000 or more. However, some of these vendors did get approved a long time ago, or they were smaller amounts that grew larger over time. And we felt that it was important to bring those to you at this point. We do have recommendations on the list of vendors that are shown on Exhibit 3. We're recommending that under action, there are several vendors that we would bring to you when we approve the budget in May to have those annually approved by the City Council, as these are vendors that we use on an ongoing basis. We also have a group of vendors that we plan on bidding every 3 to 5 years. We also have 2 vendors that would need to be approved in December, as they are linked to our employee benefits, and the employee benefit year begins in January. And then the remaining vendors are amounts that are smaller amounts, 75,000 and under, that are for supplies, parts, sole distributors, recreation instructors, that we would like to amend the code to have the city manager be able to approve vendors for these products and amounts. Would the Finance Committee like the appropriate code amendments made for our recommendations, or would you like individual vendors on this list brought back to you for individual approval?
What was the aggregate amount of all these vendors that no longer would be reviewed by us?
A dollar amount?
Yeah,
Looks to be about, oh, here we go, let's see, 1, 2, about, I'm looking at it really quick, about 400,000?
okay, but that's in dribs
Cumulative.
and drabs, and
Right, in dribs and drabs, correct.
I think it'd be easier to just approve them all at once. If something goes wrong, we can go back to the old way. This seems much more efficient.
So we should institute the appropriate code amendments to make the recommendation happen? Okay.
You should.
Any other comments, questions, confusion? Okay.
So I'll make the motion.
Do we have any other aspects of this? Is that the third of 3 things you wanted to ask, or is there a fourth?
The only other item was for you to see the list of vendors that is annually approved by the city manager. These are vendors that follow our purchasing policy. They are paid between $5,000 and $19,999 on an annual basis. Bob does approve these. This was just an FYI, so you can see the type of vendors that are on that list.
This will also become part of the annual budget process as well.
I mean, will there be something that we see with these names on it?
Annually.
I mean, without a motion? I mean, as matters go on.
These would be without a motion because of the amount involved.
Okay.
They all fall within my authority that's already been established by the council, but clearly if there is any that the council wants us to pull off and wants us to bid for any reason, and what we've noticed on the other list of 25 or 30 is that some of them start small and then they've just grown. And so if they get to a point, then we may pull them off that list and bring them to the council. So we're probably going to have to remain a little flexible, but I think the concern we had when we were going through this and trying to really tighten it up further from where we've been over the last couple of years is that, you know, something like Home Depot at the start of a fiscal year, we don't know if we're going to spend $5,000 or $50,000 at Home Depot, and it's never one individual large purchase, but it's just little things cumulatively over the year. So those are the kinds of things that we thought the council really didn't want to be bothered with, but under the current language of our purchasing agreement, that was a gray area as to whether the council would have to or not.
Right. I think, my personal opinion is I don't think we need to get involved with that.
I think it might just, and I'm reflecting on a private business, which isn't run like a government, of course, but it might be good to keep track of the aggregate amount that's been approved without city council's approval, or spent without city council's approval. Not the detail of that, but I mean, if it's 400,000 one year and 1.8 million the next year in dribs and drabs, that would be an important number to monitor, because that way we can allow
be a reality check. Yeah.
Right, but if we're not checking it at all, we might not even see that.
Yeah.
So just
Good
that,
point.
maybe once a year, just compare it to years prior.
And actually, for clarity, the reason why this is coming back to you is that, for the most part, these expenditures have been following our policy, but we do have little segments of things. You know, we don't allow aggregations of a purchase in order to avoid the $20,000 limit, but we also allow to have a series of separate, truly separate transactions, all under $20,000. And that's where, in looking at the numbers, the finance department and city manager's office realized that some of these have grown to be very large, even though they fall strictly within our purchasing policy. There was some concern that the reason why we're calling it a gray area is that that may not have been what everyone was thinking. And so the purpose of bringing all this to you today is to sort of bring to light those aggregations of purchases for those larger numbers and try to come up with a way to make sure that the city council does have a more specific and direct way of reviewing it. And I think that the recommendations before you would accomplish that. And we can also, with the last recommendation, if any of them do go over the 20,000, just make sure that there's an annual report to you all.
I think that's a great way to do it. I think just disclosing is the best way to deal with it as opposed to modifying it. We're following all the procedures. And I think
Yeah, again, it's not a matter that we're not following the procedures, it's just that the procedures had
right.
some anomalies when we started looking at some of the repeat vendors.
Are these the complete purchasing procedures for the city, or
Yes, they are.
do they talk about specifications and following specifications in the bidding process? And
Those don't go, the ones that are
Is
in
that
the
a different
packet don't
kind
go
of-
through those specifically. What they do is provide a mechanism internally as to who does what. And at what point does it bubble up to the council, to the city manager, to a department head, et
so
cetera.
there's more purchasing policies, they're just not money related.
And, well, those are just the money thresholds for the most part. There are going to be, for purposes of acquiring something or seeking a vendor for something, depending on what it is, going to be a bid process to actually secure it. If you go through that, you'll see some of those are going to be bid processes, some of them are going to be requests for bids or proposals without going through as detailed and formal a process. But in each instance, it'll be based on some set of standards that the city needs to acquire something. You know, if we have a fleet of Dell computers, which we just authorized, we're not going to simply say, you know, whoever can provide us new motherboards, they're going to be motherboards that'll be consistent with the Dell computers. Now, I don't know anything about motherboards, I just used that because it came up in my head. So, but I imagine that is what we're going to be looking at for any of these purchases.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve the recommendations of the city staff with regard to the items we just discussed.
So moved, but with the
Any
addition,
discussion on
well, we don't need a motion.
Is this one, this was for discussion only, or?
We need to
I thought the
prepare
next
the
one was.
ordinance and
We-
come back.
Okay.
We will be
okay.
back in September with the changes.
Never mind.
Am I back on
that?
making a motion?
Right.
With the addition that we get an aggregation of the amount spent.
Okay.
Annually, right?
Yeah, annually.
Oh, just for your information, that what you're speaking of is published annually in our treasurer's report that we must by law publish in the newspaper, and you do receive that treasurer's report every October.
I think I'd like us to get a separate little piece of paper saying, here's what it was, rather than dig through the treasurer's.
We can do that also.
Because it will highlight it for us.
Yes.
Year-to-year comparison, I
Yeah.
think. The risk, of course, is the anomaly. The risk is that it gets crazy. But if you control it, then you slow things down, so.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is discussion item about city fees and charges and the approval process for same.
Well, we just, Kathy and I and Vic wanted to mention and bring to your attention that similar to the conversation we just had, we have these gray areas on some fees and charges that we have in the city. Members of the council know that every year at actually I think it's about the first of the year, we bring to you about a 30-page document with all the various fees and charges of the city. What's not included in that is primarily areas of rec, senior, CROIA, where we don't bring to you the cost of a dance program, or if the seniors are taking a bus trip to Ho Chunk or wherever it was, that's not included in there. And so we don't really have any good way right now of controlling that, but as Vic pointed out to us, if anybody challenged us as to who gave you authority to set that fee and charge, there's no motion or action taken by the council that we can go back to and really reference. So staff is working through some of those issues right now with the city attorney, and in September we'll be bringing some back to you. But again, much like the conversation we just had, you are reviewing and approving annually about 98% of the fees and charges that are assessed in the city of Lake Forest, and these tend to be more in the social recreational areas than anything else.
Seniors are going to the Ho Chunk Casino.
They do.
They can save a lot of money on transportation. As of today, they can go to Rivers instead.
That's right, yeah. That's a good point. Keep their money local, or at least in Illinois.
Or in Cook County, anyway.
That's right.
Any other comments on that subject? Okay. Is there any other business that needs to be brought up, either by the alderman or by the city staff on the finance committee purview? Okay, there being none, I would offer an opportunity for the public to address the finance committee on any matters that you might like to speak to us about. Okay, in that case, I would entertain, and there being no hands in the air, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Got a second.
Second by Alderman Novit. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.